The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
Largest multi-day interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes, on demand on YouTube, and thanks to our friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio distributed to cable systems serving an additional 12 million households. I'm your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to Super Tuesday. It's primary night in the United States of America, 24 states holding primaries tonight. And we may see a definitive candidate emerging from this, the largest primary night in the history of the United States, on the Republican side of the ballot. And we may see whether Senator Clinton and Barack Obama are still neck and neck. They were in the polls coming into today's contest. It's very, very interesting. My dream, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is that when the Republicans meet in Minneapolis and when the Democrats meet in Denver for their national conventions, it is more than a big paid advertisement for their campaigns and their parties, and instead there's a real fight on the floor, a delicate fight to determine who their party's nominee for president of the United States will be. That would be fun. I remember the old days of the smoke-filled back rooms where deals were made and delegates were traded like Major League Baseball players. Long gone. It was great sport. But anyway, we should have a clearer understanding of who's who. Today in West Virginia, in the Republican convention, the winner of that convention was Mike Huckabee. However, that's fairly insignificant in terms of the number of delegates. Well, we have a whole host of people here to talk to you about and with you about today's super primary. During the 5 o'clock hour, the current hour, New York time, we have our regular news talk online on Paltalk.com. We're going to have two guests. The first half hour, David Cobb, who is the Green Party nominee for president in 2004, will be joining me. He is with us now, and I will be going to him in just a second. In the second half hour, journalist Ken Pauli from WFTL in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He is the news director down there, and he helped us out immensely as we traveled to Florida to cover the Republican primary there. He was such a good guest that, believe it or not, we got a number of requests to bring him back today. And I asked him, Ken, would you be willing to come on with us again today? And he said he would, so he'll be joining us during the 5:30 segment of the show. Then from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock Eastern time, we'll be off the air, but Sylvia will be running the room as a chat room, keeping the discussion going, giving people opportunity to talk in a very laid-back and unofficial fashion. At 8 o'clock New York time, we resume our broadcast, and that's when we start covering the race in earnest, because at 8 o'clock the polls close in New Jersey, at 9 o'clock Eastern time they close in New York, and at 11 o'clock Eastern time they close in California. And those are the three big states with the most delegate count. So by 11 o'clock tonight, we should have a projected winner on both the Republican and the Democratic side. We're going to stay with it throughout. Joining us to help us with that will be Danny Schechter, the news dissector. He will be here, and so will Democrats.com Washington director David Swanson, as well as our political analyst and correspondent Alan Jacey. And of course, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you have to say about these races, because the show is really all about you. It's here to serve you, and you kind of serve the show in return. As I suggested, our first guest is David Cobb. He was the Green Party nominee for president in 2004. He served as general counsel for the Green Party of the United States until he declared his candidacy in 2004. Previous to then, he was the Green Party of Texas candidate for Attorney General there. He was raised in a small shrimping village of San Leon in Texas. and he worked as a construction worker for several years before attending college. So he's not one of these stuffed shirt, white collar kind of guys. He actually, in a previous life, rolled up his sleeves and sweated it out and determined that working class people never really get ahead. That's kind of an interesting perspective. He then graduated from the University of Houston Law School in '93. He lectures and facilitates seminars and workshops across the country, exploring the social, legal, and historical context of how corporations have become the dominant institution of our times. David Cobb, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com, and I hope you can hear me because we are having some equipment problems with our phone patch. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Gary, and it's a real pleasure to be on Paltalk.
I got to tell you, my producer there in California, this is great how we work this on Paltalk, of course, because anybody can be anywhere and participate in this, worked until 5 minutes before showtime to get that phone patch working again. And obviously, I hear you loud and clear, and you hear me loud and clear. Boy, am I glad about that.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right to it because today is an exciting day for political junkies, whether you're a radical like me, a liberal, a moderate, a flaming right-winger. Today is an exciting day.
It is an exciting day. So tell me about this whole concept of Super Tuesday. How did that all come about?
Well, remember this. Let's back up for a moment and remember that the reason that Super Tuesday sort of came into being over the last couple of years was a recognition that it was unfair to allow lily white Iowa and New Hampshire to have such discordant and disproportionate impact on the two major political parties' delegate selection and the so-called momentum associated with it. And I also want to remind listeners, because I know you've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of listeners across the country, today is also an important day for Greens because we have our first ever hotly contested nomination process where former Congressperson Cynthia McKinney is seeking the Green Party's presidential nomination. Of course, Cynthia McKinney, the outspoken critic of the war in Iraq, her last act in Congress was to introduce impeachment articles against George Bush and Dick Cheney. So the fact that an African-American woman, a former congressperson for 6 terms, has quit the Democrats and joined the Green Party is really big news, and it's a shame that the corporate media chooses to ignore this story.
Well, why is it recognizing, pragmatically, Cynthia McKinney is not going to become president of the United States? Why does the Green Party even try? Why does Ron Paul even try? Why does Ralph Nader really even try? Why is Mayor Bloomberg contemplating a run for president of the United States? Why do people like you tilt at windmills?
Well, I will say, Gary, with much respect, we don't consider it tilting at windmills. We consider it doing the basic building blocks of creating a genuine movement. We may not win a presidential election in this election cycle, but in 2008, at the close of the day, there will be more registered Greens. There will be more Greens sitting in local offices at the city council, mayor's level, county level across the country. And we do intend to build a movement for peace, justice, democracy, and environmental protection, and it's going to take time. Remember this. Think about what so-called third parties have had to champion at the ballot box. The abolition of slavery, women getting the right to vote, creating the Social Security Administration, unemployment insurance and workers' compensation laws, pure food and drug laws, the direct election